government's job is to provide good governance. And good governance is about touching lives and creating opportunities for citizens to thrive through strategic policies. And this has been the hallmark of Professor Gov Zulum's 10-pact development agenda in Borno in the last 2.5 years. Welcome to Borno Restoration. I am Jessie Tofida. But first, let's bring you up to speed with Borno today. There is now relative peace being enjoyed in Borno State, courtesy of the successes recorded by security operatives. With many communities now liberated, thousands of IDPs have now been resettled successfully by the state government. But the humanitarian crisis is far from over, and the state government is at the forefront of alleviating the suffering of victims of the insurgency. This 100,000 households are to take home 10,000 naira each, in addition to 5 kg bags of rice and sugar, as well as a wrapper each. Governor Gov Zulum makes it clear that this intervention is to support the needy in this month of Ramadan, especially survivors of the 12-year conflict.
Notwithstanding the successes that we have been recording in Borno State, we still have some certain challenges because many of our younger ones, as well as our able-bodied ones, cannot still have access to the agricultural lands. And that has informed the decision of the Borno State government to continue to provide humanitarian support to the most needed people in the state.
The governor sounds a strong warning to the beneficiaries not to sell the items, but to make use of it for the purpose intended.
I want to assure you that this administration will continue to support the less privileged people that are residing both in the local government areas as well as in Metropolitan Council.
She says there has been a lot of difficulties, but this intervention will go a long way in catering the needs of my 8 children. Many thanks to the state governor. The beneficiaries are urged to use the month of Ramadan and pray for lasting peace in the state. Borno State has been in the spotlight when it comes to socio-economic development, and the last 2.5 years, Professor Gov Zulum has been raising the bar, especially in the provision of special intervention for the downtrodden in the society. Let's take this report. For 12 years now, armed conflict has left more than 2 million people displaced in the northeast of Nigeria, making it one of the world's most complex humanitarian emergencies. As people fled their homes in search for safety, they also lost their means of livelihood, and many of them struggled to meet their ancestral needs.
Increased risks of epidemics like cholera.
But the Zulum administration is not sitting idly by, as it continues to swim against the tide by providing livelihood support to the people. Over the past 2.5 years, several projects were put in place by the Borno State government, all in an effort to assist the vulnerable groups in the society. The year 2022 started with a series of activities by the Zulum administration to see how survivors of the insurgency are catered for. The governor met with the United Nations Under Secretary General and Emergency Relief Coordinator Martin Griffiths, as well as the acting resident and humanitarian coordinator for Nigeria, Matthias Kemley, to chart a way forward on how best to provide livelihood support to the vulnerable people.
Our vision in the humanitarian community that I lead is of a world where people in need have their needs met on time, with respect, with principle, but in full support of the society and culture and government within which they live. For years to come, of our support for your policies and your efforts to bring peace and prosperity back to Borno, where it belongs and where it has been.
The purpose of the UN is to support the government, including the state government here, for the benefit of the people of Nigeria. And I think that is our common agenda. We need to do what is best for people here to overcome dependency on aid and to make their life more worth living.
I want to categorically convey one message to you, that some of the INGOs are not doing well. They are here to make money, they are here to create problems for us, and under no circumstances, government of Borno State will allow the leadership of the state government to be handled by them. And therefore, there is a need for us to separate the chaff from the wheat and deal decisively with those that are not willing to key into our own objectives.
Another laudable move by Professor Babagana Zulum is the launching of 100 taxis, 500 tricycles, and 10 41-seater buses to ease transportation challenges in Maiduguri metropolis and environs. This is the first of its kind the state has ever witnessed. At the ceremony, the governor noted that the vehicles will enhance urban mass transportation in Maiduguri, Jere, and Konduga local government areas. 2,200 youths will benefit from the tricycles and the taxis and have 50% subsidy of repayment. During the launching, Governor Zulum also announced 50 million naira grant to 1,000 members of different tricycle operators who have not benefited from the urban transportation projects.
This project, you may recall, becomes necessary and it is hoped to add more values to the lives of our people in several ways, especially at this time when Borno State is transiting from a decade-long insurgency period to a recovery phase. Government and indeed all sons and daughters of Borno State must share the responsibility of fixing the state by lending their support to our brothers and sisters who need the very essentials of life to survive in these most difficult times in our history. While government at all levels and its international partners are working hard to end the humanitarian crisis caused by the Boko Haram insurgency in our state, as elected leaders of our people, we must go out of our way to provide the enabling environment for our people to pick up their lives which the insurgents destroyed through whatever means possible.
The State Commissioner for Transport, Abubakar Tijani, assured of effective and efficient supervision to ensure functional deployment to routes in line with the governor's goal of increasing access to mass transport in the metropolis.
Your Excellency, sir, may I inform you that Borno State Traffic Management Agency board has been constituted and are ready to start work. The agency is new and will face a lot of challenges. But with your support, I want to assure Your Excellency that with the law empowering the agency to carry out its assignment, the menace of traffic offenders will be minimized. This remarkable event will go down into the annal of history, not only in Borno State, but the country as a whole.
No doubt that this social intervention will go a long way in boosting the state's economy, provide job opportunities to unemployed youth, and address the transportation problem. I had a chat with the special advisor to Professor Babagana Zulum on public relation and strategic planning, Issa Gusau, on some of the restoration mission of the state government. Take a listen. Welcome to Borno Restoration. Infrastructure and human development has been all-time high since Professor Babagana Zulum assumed office as the executive governor. Tell us about how his 10-part development agenda contributed to the state's success story when it comes to socio-economic advancement.
I think one of the benefits of Professor Babagana Umaro Zulum, or some of the unique qualities of him that the people of Borno have benefited from, in my opinion, are about 3 to 4 things. The first one is that he's an engineer. You know, engineers by their nature are driven by all kinds of developments, particularly infrastructure. Even though he's not a civil engineer, he's an irrigation engineer, but like some people will tell you, an engineer is always an engineer. And even in the water sector where he specialized, there are lots of infrastructural things there. And then his background. Zulum was a rector in Ramat Polytechnic, and while he was a rector under the Shetima administration, he brought about a lot of transformation at the Ramat Polytechnic. So in other words, he had the experience of doing some public sector infrastructural works while he was there. And then as Commissioner for Reconstruction, Rehabilitation and Resettlement under the Shetima administration, 30,000 houses were built during the Shetima administration, and it was Zulum that coordinated, the whole of that. So he came with all of that background. And then being a commissioner of RRR, one of the things about RRR is that it's interwoven. It's just like information. The Ministry of Information, for instance, is involved with virtually all the activities of all ministries or office of the SSG. So the Ministry of RRR is involved in all the sectors. So Zulum had the advantage of having a fair knowledge of what obtains in all the ministries. And then ultimately, which is far more important than everything, is the man's commitment. Professor Zulum is someone that is extremely committed. To be honest with you, when he started working as a governor, I started working with him. Not that I didn't trust him, but normally as a journalist, journalists, we have critical mindsets. We are always suspicious. We are like academics. We see things from different sides. So I saw him, I said, well, maybe he's just a politician like every other politician. Maybe he's just trying to impress. But over time, I got to know that this is who Zulum is. The man is not pretending. That is him. You cannot have 30 minutes conversation with Zulum without him talking about one project or the other. So it tells you that the man is a progressive in nature. He is developmental in nature. He's someone who wants to make impact. He goes to bed thinking about Borno. He wakes up thinking about Borno. He eats, he drinks, thinking about Borno. And all of this drives his passion for development. And then I think talking about the 10-pack agenda, you know that from day one, while he was campaigning, he had his blueprint or a projection of what he wanted to achieve. And don't forget that soon after he became governor, 2 days after he was sworn in, he started a tour of 27 local government areas. I think he started with Goza, if I'm right. He went to Goza on 31st of May. Then from there, he came back to Bama and Konduga, and then continued. He went around 27 local government areas, even though he had some knowledge of most of the things while he was commissioner for RRR. But of course, there were areas he couldn't have known because maybe they didn't have to do with his office, at that time. So while he became governor, he went around on a needs assessment. So he armed himself with knowledge and understanding of the peculiarities of each of the 27 local government in terms of their needs. And then he also had consultations with key stakeholders, like members of state assemblies representing each local government, the members of House of Reps and senators representing constituencies, the commissioners, former office holders, other key stakeholders. So he did a lot of consultation to identify the priorities of each local government area. So he was armed with all of that. And then that's why he keeps moving. And one thing he keeps saying which is really important. The governor would always tell you that what makes the private sector succeed over the public sector is the absence of supervision at the public sector level. He will give you an instance. You could find a teacher, for instance, who is teaching in a public school. Maybe he earns 30,000 or 40 or 50,000 or even more than that. And you discover that that teacher doesn't go to class to teach. But you discover that the same teacher might be doing a lesson for someone, maybe in a private home, where he's being given 10,000 naira as salary. But that teacher never misses, the lesson. The reason is because if he doesn't come, the mother of the child or the father would call him. So what Zulum ensures is strict supervision. That's why you see him appearing at project site 1 a.m. He goes to hospitals at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. He appears in school 6 a.m. That is the kind of supervision, and it works a lot. It energizes workers, it keeps everybody on his toes, and that's why you're seeing the results.
Okay, now Borno State is experiencing relative peace since it has in office, and the state government has continued to show animal support to the military. Now, tell us what non-kinetic approach the state is adopting to sustain the gains recorded so far.
Governor Zulum, from day one, as part of the 10-pack agenda, did say that he was going to combine kinetic and non-kinetic responses. And then the kinetic responses, which, within the first week he became governor, he increased the salary or the allowances of civilian JTFs. He ordered the recruitment of thousands of hunters. He got them a lot of vehicles, and deployed them. And then, the army itself has regularly acknowledged that the governor gives overwhelming support to the military, especially through, gathering of information that often leads to actionable intelligence in addition to logistic support. Now, the non-kinetic is good leadership. One of the things that you achieve as a leader is being able to inspire people. And you can only inspire people when people believe in you, when they trust you. So the governor has earned that confidence. And then, of course, you know that the governor is always is the chief humanitarian officer of Borno State. Nobody can count the number of times Zulum has visited communities for humanitarian intervention. Only yesterday, as you know, we're in Malari, where he went to flag off a resettlement and humanitarian support to a number of people. So the governor, part of the advantages of doing that is that you make people to believe in the system, you discourage them from even contemplating joining the insurgents. Because frustration and hopelessness can actually lead someone to become a criminal. Where, for instance, the governor, ignores IDPs who are homeless, who are displaced, they don't have anything to do, and somebody comes with a proposition that, look, you could join us as a spy, be giving Boko Haram or ISWAP some information, they'll be giving you X amount of money per month. You could have an economic-driven membership of the insurgents. You know that we have had instances where some women were being paid as little as 10,000 to ferry rifles. We have had a situation where some young men were given 5,000 naira to set schools ablaze. So what the governor is doing is deploying serious economic responses in terms of supporting victims of terror, in terms of jobs creation, in terms of empowerment. That's why you see anytime you say that Zulum has taken 50 million, 100 million to divide. All of these incentives is to give people a reason to believe in the system, is to empower them, no matter how level, in such a way that it's impossible for insurgents to attract them with small amount of money. Because that 5, 10, 20,000, 50,000 that he gives to people, some people may see it as nothing. But let's also remember that some people were attracted with as little as 5, 10,000 naira to work for insurgents. So this is part of the non-kinetic approach. And of course, you know that the governor has been advocating for insurgents to surrender their arms. So after Shekhar was killed, the governor thought that we should seize an opportunity. He increased his advocacy to the insurgents for them to join, and then we seized an opportunity. Some of them began to join, and they saw leadership in the governor. They saw sincerity in the governor, and they realized that whatever Zulum says, he's not the kind of person who will speak from both sides of his mouth. When Zulum gave him their words that, look, when you guys surrender, inshallah, nothing will happen to you. And some of them came and they realized that they are actually safe, and then they started calling their colleagues from the bush to surrender. And that is why you see relative peace in the Bama-Banki axis. You haven't heard of bomb, you haven't heard of attack. It's because majority of those insurgents who have surrendered are from Bama-Banki axis. And alhamdulillah, we are getting more of them from other axes. You know, you heard of ISWAP, about 104 ISWAP families surrendering. So these are part of the non-kinetic approach, and they are driven by the governor because of confidence that people have in him, because he's discouraging people from joining, and those who join have some level of protection. Because like the governor would always ask, okay, what do we do? Should we punish somebody who has done something, which is really important? This is what we prefer. But the fact of the matter is that it is a difficult choice that we are making, because the war has protracted. We are in it now for about 12 years. So the governor would ask, okay, what do we do? Should we say that, okay, any Boko Haram member, we must prosecute them, and then some of them who want to leave, we say, okay, it's better we join ISWAP to go and kill more people. Then do we secure the lives of more people, or do we insist on punishing them? Because by the time you are able to get 1 or 2 Boko Haram members to drop their arms, you have potentially saved the lives of people. So you ask yourself, which is more important? Is the punishment more important than saving the life of people? Anytime you see a government accepting a political solution to criminality, is an admittance of the complexity of the challenge. And this has been what we have been advocating, in the last 10 years. You know that since the days of the late Eradua, there has been that advocacy. Because you must fight the ideology, and you cannot fight a complex group like that with only one method.
Well, positive innovation is what distinguishes between a true leader and a ruler. That's our package on this episode of Borno Restoration. Thanks for watching. I am Jessie Tofida. See you next time. Bye-bye.